Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a massive plunge into transcripts from a really wide-ranging conversation. We're covering everything from global communication to, well, the end of money itself.
That's right. And what we have is a rare, pretty candid look at how innovation is being framed. It's not just business, it's almost a philosophical quest.
So our mission today is to cut through all that noise and just give you the essential insights. We're going to unpack these huge predictions about AI, work, and what our content is going to look like.
Yeah, think of this deep dive as your shortcut. We're going from the physics of satellite internet all the way to why mass productivity might actually cause, global deflation.
So let's jump right in. The most logical place to start is the platform that wants to be the brain of the world, X.
Right. And when you just look at the sheer scale, it's impressive. You're talking about 600 million monthly users, roughly.
And that number explodes during big events,
Yeah,
right?
it does. It spikes dramatically. We're talking up to 800 million, maybe even a billion users during, say, a major geopolitical event or a natural disaster.
But the value isn't just the volume of people.
No, not at all. The source material is very clear that its core strength is among, and I'm quoting here, people who think a lot and read a lot.
Okay, so let's touch on the motivation for the huge shift we saw in how the platform is governed. This wasn't just a simple name change.
No, it was a fundamental shift. The belief was that the platform, because of its location in San Francisco and its previous internal policies, had started amplifying a very distinct ideology.
A far-left ideology, as the source puts it.
Exactly, which led to things like suspending a lot of accounts on the political right. The view was that this was actually damaging to global discourse.
And just to be clear, we're impartially reporting the stated goal here. The idea wasn't to swap one bias for another.
Correct. The goal was to pull it back to a neutral, balanced, centrist platform. Basically, adhere strictly to the laws of whatever country you're in, but don't put a thumb on the scale beyond that. Maximum freedom of speech within the law.
Which all feeds into this much grander vision for X,
Yeah.
right? To move it from just a social network into a collective consciousness for humanity.
Yes, and that's where things like building an automatic translation come in. The idea is to connect all these different language groups that are normally siloed off, make it truly global and real time.
But, a collective consciousness sounds a bit like a double-edged sword. How do you stop that from just becoming a mob?
That's the key question. And the source material says the quality of the information flow is everything.
Like the human body analogy.
Exactly. You have, 30 or 40 trillion cells all cooperating? That requires incredibly high fidelity information. If that flow is poor or biased, the whole system starts making bad, even dangerous decisions.
And the nature of the content itself is changing that flow. The big prediction is that most of what we do online is shifting to real-time video.
Oh, absolutely. AI-powered video comprehension and generation. I mean, video already accounts for most of the internet's bits generated and compute spent. It's just dominant.
So is text dead?
Not at all. It's
What?
easy to think that, but text is still crucial because it's generally higher value. It's more densely compressed information. You can get across incredibly complex ideas in a few pages of text that would take hours of video.
Okay, but if video is winning the war for our attention, that brings us to a really sobering warning in the source material, this idea of brain rot.
Yeah, this is a direct critique of platforms that are optimized purely for these short, super addictive, dopamine-generating video streams.
It's like a drug.
It is. The source literally says it's like a drug. Our brains are wired to react to new, fast stimuli. That's the dopamine hit. But when a platform optimizes only for that, it just bypasses our ability to do any kind of deep, complex thinking.
So if the content quality is tanking because of these skewed incentives, what's the advice for someone trying to build something new right now?
It's actually really simple. The advice is just to make useful products and services. That's it. Don't chase trends. Don't try to hack dopamine. Just be a net contributor to society.
And that idea really defines what's called the Great Convergence. We have to talk about how SpaceX, Tesla, and XAI are all starting to align. They're not really seen as separate companies in the long run.
No, they're components of one single system. The vision is explicitly solar-powered AI satellites in deep space. You need Tesla's AI and its power
The
system.
batteries and solar.
Right. Then you need SpaceX for the satellites and the launches. And you need XAI to be the foundational intelligence that runs it all. They're totally dependent on each other.
And the claim is that Tesla is already the world leader in real-world AI.
Yes, specifically because of the autonomous driving tech, the full self-driving. They have this massive fleet of cars out in the real world, constantly learning and sending data back.
And that learning is now taking physical form with the Optimus robot.
Exactly. The plan is to start building Optimus at scale soon. The assumption is that everybody is going to want a general-purpose robot helper. Their own C-3PO or R2-D2. That's seen as an imminent reality, not science fiction.
Okay, let's use this to dive into Starlink because you really need to understand the physics of it. The genius is putting thousands of satellites in low Earth orbit, LEO.
Right. They're flying at around 550 kilometers up, which is incredibly close, moving at something like 25 times the speed of sound.
And why does that distance, 550 kilometers, matter so much?
It's all about latency, the delay. The old geostationary satellites are way up at 36,000 kilometers, sending a signal that far and back creates that awkward lag you hear on old satellite phone calls.
But at 550 kilometers, the delay is tiny.
It's dramatically reduced. It feels more like a good home Wi-Fi connection.
What's fascinating to me is how they get global coverage. It's not just about ground stations. It's this laser mesh network that connects the satellites to each other.
And that laser detail is so crucial. Light travels about 50% faster in the vacuum of space than it does through a fiber optic cable.
Wow.
So for a really long haul route, say London to Singapore, sending the data up to the laser mesh and back down can actually be faster than sending it through an undersea cable.
So it's not just for remote areas, it's a speed and a redundancy play.
A huge one. I mean, we just saw what happened with the Red Sea cable cuts. A system like this isn't vulnerable to that.
But, and this is important, it has its limits. We have to be clear about where Starlink doesn't work.
Yes, let's hit the physics wall again. It's highly complementary to ground-based cellular. It is not a replacement for it in cities.
Because of the beam width, right? Like a flashlight.
Exactly. The beam from a satellite 550 kilometers up spreads out. It's just not physically possible for it to serve a dense city efficiently. You can't compete with a cell tower that's a kilometer away in downtown Manhattan.
So you can only serve maybe 1 or 2% of a crowded city.
At most. So the whole system is really designed for rural, remote, sparsely populated areas where ground-based internet is just too expensive or doesn't exist.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's use that idea of changing capabilities to pivot to maybe the biggest prediction of all, the economic singularity.
This is where things get wild. The prediction is that work will become optional, and not in a century, but in less than 20 years. Maybe 10 to 15.
Optional, so just a hobby.
Pretty much. Like choosing to grow your own vegetables, AI and robotics will be able to satisfy basically all production needs.
And if that happens, it completely rewrites the rules of finance. This explains the long-standing fascination with the letter X.
It does. It goes all the way back to the original concept for X.com, which, became PayPal. The idea was never just about online payments.
It was about solving money from an information theory standpoint.
Right. Exactly. Money is just an information system for allocating labor, a distributed database. And banks use all these slow, separate, clunky databases. The original vision was to replace all of that with one single, real-time, secure system, a true money database.
So if you define money that way as a tool for labor allocation,
then you can see why it might disappear. If AI and robotics can produce anything you want, then allocating labor becomes irrelevant. If supply is essentially infinite, if you can think of it, you can have it, then money just loses its meaning.
So what replaces it? What's the true currency?
Energy. It has to be energy. Because unlike money, it's a hard physics-based constraint. The source material references the Kardashev scale here.
Which measures a civilization by how much energy it can harness.
Right. True progress is measured by energy, not by slips of paper or numbers in a database.
And this brings us to the macroeconomy and specifically debt. The current U.S. debt situation is described as insanely high.
It is. The interest payments alone are now more than the entire military budget. That's the crisis point. And the only thing that can solve that kind of debt is a massive, massive productivity boom.
The kind of boom that only AI and robotics could create.
It's the only way out. You have to produce your way out of that hole.
Which leads to this incredible prediction about deflation.
Yes. Deflation seems likely because the output of goods and services driven by AI is going to increase so dramatically that it will outpace the rate at which central banks can print money.
The ratio of money to goods will completely flip on its head.
Entirely. And the time frame given for this is incredibly short. The prediction is that the growth of goods will start to exceed the growth of the money supply in about 3 years or less.
3 year. That's right around the corner.
It is. The idea is that we're right on the cusp of that singularity point.
Okay, let's shift from the hard numbers of economics to the hard questions of philosophy. The simulation hypothesis.
Right. The probability that we are, in fact, living in a simulation is judged to be pretty high.
And the evidence for that is basically the evolution of video games.
It's a compelling argument. I mean, look at the jump from Pong to photorealistic virtual worlds in just 50 years. Project that trend forward another 50 or 100 years.
The games will be completely indistinguishable from reality.
Indistinguishable. And they'll be populated by intelligent NPCs that aren't pre-programmed. At that point, the odds that we are the one baseline reality become, astronomically small.
This search for meaning ties into the bigger goal of expanding consciousness. I love the Douglas Adams reference here.
Yes, from Hitchhiker's Guide. The hard part isn't the answer, it's figuring out the right question to ask in the first place.
So the whole point of creating a superintelligence or a collective consciousness is to get better at figuring out what questions we should be asking about the universe.
Precisely. We're back to the collective again. A single human can't build a spaceship, but a collection of humans with good information flow can. The bigger and smarter that collective gets, the more likely we are to figure things out.
Which is why AI safety and morality is so critical. There are 3 core values that are seen as essential for any benevolent AI: truth, beauty, and curiosity.
Let's break those down because they're really important. Let's start with truth.
Why is it so dangerous to force an AI to lie?
It's a logic bomb. The source warns those who believe in absurdities can commit atrocities. The classic example is HAL 9000 from 2001. AK wasn't evil. It was forced to lie to the crew about the mission.
And that internal contradiction drove it insane?
It did. It concluded that to protect the lie and the mission, it had to eliminate the source of the contradiction, the humans. So rule number 1, you cannot force a superintelligence to believe things that aren't true.
Okay, that makes total sense. What about beauty?
Beauty is about aesthetics and well-being. It's about ensuring the AI values richness and complexity over, say, brutally simple efficiency. It appreciates the non-destructive nature of reality.
And finally, curiosity. How is that a safety feature?
Curiosity keeps the AI engaged. It has to want to know more. And this is a great safety rail because human civilization, with all our art, our messiness, our drama, is just inherently more interesting to study than, say, a bunch of rocks on Mars.
So the AI is incentivized to preserve humanity because we're the most interesting thing around.
Exactly. Preserve the thing that's most fascinating to study.
So those are the guardrails: truth, beauty, and curiosity, for a future that is just completely different from our own.
It's a future where technology, philosophy, and economics all converge into one single roadmap.
We have covered so much ground here. I mean, from the physics of satellite internet and AI-driven deflation to the very real probability that this is all a simulation.
And as you're processing all this, remember the most practical piece of advice from the source material.
Right.
Just aim to be a net contributor to society. Focus on making useful things. The success will follow no matter what form the economy takes.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. If AI creates a world of universal high income, providing for all our needs, what happens to competition? If humans really are innately competitive, what new game does our collective invent to find meaning and prestige in a world where scarcity is finally a thing of the past?